Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the real family. J-wil the artist is here. And my gosh, there's work to be done. There's so much work to be done. I am so behind, so let's start catching up. So, welcome to another rendition of Plot Holes in the Batcave. As you can see, it's so dark. And so with that being said, we're going to take a deep dive and review Gotham Season 2. Now, I feel like Gotham Season 2 was a huge improvement over Gotham Season 1, believe me. I think what a lot of the fans and viewers were complaining about, like issues that were in Season 1, I feel like they touched and it was like done so much better in Season 2. Like what people were complaining about, it was mostly fixed in Season 2. Now, for your fair warning, there's going to be spoilers in this, so if you have not seen Gotham Season 2 yet, I would recommend watching it before you watch this. Now, I can wait. I mean, you can pause this, X out of this, whatever, go watch that, and then come back here. Or if you just don't give a shit, then, well, here we go. You were warned. Now let's go. Now, I'm not gonna dive in and dwell and talk about every single thing that happened in all of the 22 episodes that spanned in the 6 to 7 month period that this season was on. But I'll talk about the most memorable things and what were the most important things about the story line in this season. Now, this could be a long video, and if it gets to where it's too long, I might split this into parts. But anyway, let's carry on. So, now with Gotham Season 1, the story was a little choppy, but the main focus of the story was towards the Mafia and the mob family that was happening in Gotham City. Now, we dive into Gotham Season 2, and the first episode takes place a few months after Season 1 concluded. And the first episode of Season 2 was a great transition from Season 1 to 2, because it mainly just dwelled into tying up the loose ends from Season 1. And it still had the Mafia and mob in it, and it still acknowledged the Mafia and mob family still existed in the city. Now, after the events of Season 1, the mob family is weaker than what it was. It is not as strong as it was in Season 1. But it's still there, and there's still things running. Like, for instance, Penguin is now, or was now, at least at the start of Season 2, the king of Gotham. He pretty much controlled the mob family now. Fish is gone, or was gone anyway, but we'll get to that later. Falcone is retired, and Maroni is dead. If you didn't catch that for spoilers for this Season 1, whatever. You're watching this video, so I'm assuming, do you really care about spoilers from Season 1? Anyway, so pretty much the first episode, I'm not going to dwell on everything that happened in that, but the main point of it was to tie back into the promise that Gordon had to Penguin back in Season 1. You know, where it was kind of, I don't know, a cop-out, what the promise, and what I want to touch on in that was the favor that Gordon owed Penguin. Now, yeah, you could argue that he gave that favor in the season finale of Season 1, but do you really think that counts? That was a cop-out. I did not count that. Some of you might count that, but whatever. I count this as the technical real favor, and it resulted in the way you were anticipating it resulting to begin with. Gordon killing someone. Which he did. He shot a man to death. He made a pencil factory out of someone. which I thought was a really interesting twist and actually a great transition and start for the season. That was not even the main plot of the whole season. It was just a little boost into what the season was going to end up turning into. My only problem with it is the thing with Gordon killing someone, or at least killing that person, it doesn't even really come into conflict that much. It gets mentioned later, but it really is not that important, and you forget about it halfway through the season, which is my only complaint about that. But I like the fact that they did that, and I was happy to see that that's the way they took the favor Gordon owed Penguin, because that was what I was wanting to see, and that's what I was anticipating on seeing. Now, for the rest of the season, it was kind of interesting because the rest of the season dwelled into two parts. The first half of season 2, after the first episode, dwelled heavily on the Order of Saint Dumas and the Court of Owls and stuff like that, run by this douchebag known as Theo Galavan. And I gotta say, Theo Galavan was a pretty interesting villain. In fact, there were times when he was a little too much, it was almost cheesy at times. When you first get introduced to the guy, you know he's a villain. I mean, he walks up, looks right at the camera with ominous music playing, is like, I will do. It's like, I only want what's best for God. And even when he's talking in this creepy tone. It's like they're not even being subtle. It's like there's a huge neon sign that says, he's the bad guy. He's the main villain. Which, wow. Okay, that's better. Light in here can't help it, it's so dark in here. But, that being said, Theo he really did dive well and actually made the story real interesting. And what I feel like Gotham Season 1 suffered was that I feel like its main problem was that it didn't have a concise story. By the end of it, you could tell where they were going, but it was kind of choppy in places, and there were episodes that weren't necessary to begin with to be there. This one there wasn't as much, because it was every episode was a continuing story of this really high point. And by the end of this season, it actually surprised me how far the season got to by the finale of season 2 from the premiere of season 2. The first episode from season 2, what I just talked about, to the end, it was unbelievable how it got that escalated, in that amount of time. And like I said, there was the Order of Saint Dumas, and pretty much, in a long-term short, their game plan was pretty much take over Gotham City, take over Wayne Enterprises, and kill Bruce Wayne in this overly dramatic way, I might say. Now, some of it made sense of why they did what they did, but when it came to them killing Bruce Wayne, I feel like they wasted so much time. So my main problem with the first half, mainly with Theo Galavan, was really that his plan was glorious, from the first half of the season. He incorporated and used several villains who nearly ended up dying, each one. He used Jerome, aka the Joker, or Proto-Joker, or an insane person, whatever you want to consider Jerome at this point. He used him to terrorize Gotham City in order to get him to be mayor and stuff like that. Then he pretty much made Penguin his bitch to do things he wanted by kidnapping his mother. He killed his mother later on. Penguin got pissed. Penguin nearly died. He used Firefly, a new character, which I will touch on her in a little bit, to burn down some buildings so he could rebuild something. They touched on a little bit of that, but I still don't fully know what exactly he was wanting to build, because they never really touched on it much at all. And he wanted to kill Bruce Wayne and gain control of his company because of this long family feud that ranged hundreds of years ago. Talk about holding a grudge. So the main problem I had with Theo Galavan was that he didn't exactly, when it came to the actual end game of him killing Bruce Wayne, they had this huge ritual going on, and it took a while, and in a way, it was kind of badass seeing this huge team up to take down Galavan and stuff. Long story short, they rescue Bruce Wayne, and Gordon pretty much murders Theo Galavan, which escalates into the second half of Season 2, which is completely different. Now, like I mentioned Firefly earlier, Firefly was a character known as Bridget Pike in this show. A young teenage girl who became the villain, the DC Batman villain, or DC villain, known as Firefly. It's kind of self-explanatory, but it's a little different from the comics, because in the comics, Firefly was never a female. But you know what, I didn't really care that much. In fact, I didn't really care. I actually liked this version of Firefly. I really liked it a lot. But anyway, with her, you kind of get, like, in her episode, when she pretty much nearly dies, she gets sent to this place called Indian Hill. And that was, like, a few seconds of a scene in the first half of Season 2. Pretty much, the second half of Season 2 is all focused about Indian Hill, and Theo Galavan makes an appearance again. Yeah, but anyway, long story short, Indian Hill is ran by Hugo Strange, and he's creating all these monsters and whatnot to figure out a way to bring people back from the dead, but he wants to figure out how to bring them back from the dead with their memory and their sanity, because everyone he brings back from the dead turns out crazy. This could be a horror film. I know it's a plot synopsis to a TV show, but this could be a horror film. A really great horror film, actually. Hollywood, I don't know why you're not doing this. So the second half I actually enjoyed much better. Now the first half was good, but the second half was, like, elevated to an extent. It felt like a whole different season. It felt like Season 3 almost. It wasn't, but it was pretty cool. I liked Hugo Strange in this. Like, BD Wong is Hugo Strange. I was unsure at first going into this. No, I did not know how Hugo Strange would be as being played by BD Wong, but actually it was fantastic. He killed it as Hugo Strange. I was actually very interested in watching his performance. I enjoyed every scene he was in. Then there were other characters like Mr. Freeze, and who I actually really liked, too. In a really dark, twisted way. This Mr. Freeze was much darker and twisted than I saw him in other versions in television and film. Like, Victor Fries had, like, it even touched on Victor Fries was doing this for his wife, because she was dying and stuff, and it even explained this in the TV show. But he had a conscience, because he wasn't really evil, he was just doing this for his wife. He didn't enjoy killing people, he didn't enjoy hurting people. Now in this show, it did something completely different that I don't think was really done before, where his wife, Nora Fries, a big DC character, dies. Like, ultimately dies. So, which kind of brings into question if she's really dead. Maybe? I don't know. But anyway, after that, Victor Fries, or Mr. Freeze, turns into turns really bad. I mean, he just doesn't give a crap about anyone. Well, I guess he gives some care for Strange because he helps him. Anyway, and then there's a lot of other stuff happening, like Bruce Wayne, he finally finds the man who killed his parents, or at least pulled the trigger that shot his parents, which I found very poetic in a way, because there was a whole episode dedicated to him finding the man who shot and murdered his parents in an alleyway. Yeah. Ultimately, I found this episode very enjoyable in a sense because it brought closure to that storyline, because that was a huge storyline in season 1, and in one episode, I'm not even joking, within one episode they tie it all up. Well, actually, they tied up that whole thing in this season, pretty much, of Bruce looking for who killed his parent. And pretty much, the man who killed his parents, named Matches Malone, I know this is different from the comics, but he finds the man, and Bruce wants to kill this man, shoot this man dead, who happens to be a hitman. And in a weird way, long story short, he sees this man is not really a monster, he's just a man he's suffered so much, he has no humanity left. It's like he's not even a man anymore. It's hard to explain, but he's just depressing. Like, you kind of, in a weird way, feel sorry for the guy. I know it's weird saying you feel sorry for the homicidal, murderous psychopath, but you do, and you kind of feel sorry for the hitman, or whatever. So Bruce ends up not killing him. I know if that surprised you. I know, you probably were wondering, is Bruce Wayne gonna kill a man? It's like, yeah, I know, you were all on the edge of your seats. That entire episode, I'm sure everyone was just wanting to find out if Bruce was actually going to kill him. I know that comes as a surprise to you. I know you did not see it a mile away that he wasn't going to. It is a huge surprise. But on something that might be surprising, he ends up shooting himself. The guy who shot. So that who shot Bruce's parents is cleared up, but then they need to find out who hired the man. And I didn't think they were actually going to figure that out in this season. I thought this was something that they were going to look into in season 3. But no, they even tied that up, and you find out Hugo Strange was the man who hired that man to kill Bruce's parents. And then you're like, oh, so Hugo Strange is behind it all. But at the end you find out, no, someone told Hugo Strange. It's like, no, you find out that Hugo Strange is working with Wayne Enterprises, and Wayne Enterprises is working for this secret council, and they told Wayne Enterprises, and Wayne Enterprises got Hugo Strange, and Hugo Strange got Matches Malone to kill Bruce's parents. It's just one huge, long, endless line of a conspiracy theory that is just, what the hell? It's almost diving into soap opera territory. Now, back to the point, anyway. Yeah, Hugo Strange ordered the hit on Bruce's parents, Thomas and Martha Wayne. He investigates, he finds this out through the course of several episodes of finding things out. Like I said, it starts off with him finding Matches Malone in the second half of season 2. And after that didn't go so well and Matches kills himself, Bruce finds... And something I would love to touch on, that I wish they would have explored more, is after this, Bruce decides to leave his home and go live with Selina. which I thought was actually very interesting and smart, because I actually like the friendship and the character development between Bruce and Selina. Whether or not you actually want to see them become a couple in the show, or if you don't, I find their scenes together very interesting, and I actually liked that happened. I felt like it ended too soon, because they dive into this big dramatic ending with that episode with Matches Malone, where Bruce is leaving home and going to live with Selina. It was so dramatic, and you feel like it's going to be a long time. It lasts like maybe 2 or 3 episodes, and then he's back living at the mansion, so it feels kind of pointless to even do it to begin with. I don't know, Gotham's weird. But I do find it hilarious that a teenage boy runs away from home to live with the teenage girl, just the two of them. Bruce says it was to learn about Gotham City and to learn how criminals work, but I'm kind of surprised this said teenage boy didn't learn some other things with living alone with said teenage girl.
Oh yeah!
Just kind of surprised no one talked about that, or at least no one even mentioned that on the show. It's just funny. No one on the show questioned that whatsoever. Even Alfred didn't question. It's like, oi, you still a virgin?
Oh yeah!
I'm such a dork. Anyway, after all that nonsense, other things happen, like Enigma becoming more Riddler-esque. And literally, there was a whole episode dedicated pretty much to Enigma, and it showed that Enigma is a badass. The entire series so far, I was actually hoping that at some point we could see the potential that Enigma was showing, and we did, and I loved it. I loved this episode. It was like some Saw type shit. I mean, Enigma pretty much, with Saw, that's a great example, because the ending of Saw could be compared to the ending of the episode that was dedicated to Enigma. I think it was episode 15 or 6. I think it was 15 in season 2 or whatever. I don't know. Google it. But anyway, the ending of that, to where Enigma tricks Gordon, because, long story short, I know I am talking a lot of this stuff out of order. I've probably confused you as hell, but I'm just talking about the memorable things that have come to my mind about the season. And Enigma, whew. Okay, so another thing that happened was Gordon was looking into the disappearance of Kristen Kringle. If you remember Kristen Kringle, no, not Kris Kringle, Kristen Kringle, who was Enigma's crush, who Enigma had the hugest crush on. Well, in the first half of season 2, they ended up dating, and for a while, and they even had sex. They did the Big Bang Theory.
Oh yeah!
And then she finds out that Enigma killed her ex-boyfriend. She freaks out, and Enigma accidentally, and I'm not putting quotes because it wasn't an accident, it literally was an accident. It was the most awkward accident ever, that he accidentally strangled his girlfriend to death. I know that sounds weird. I didn't even think that was possible, but he literally accidentally strangled his girlfriend to death. That sounds crazy of me saying it, but that literally happened in the show. And that should tell you this show is fucking weird. So anyway, so he chops her up and buries her in the woods. Yeah, I know, this... Go with it. Enigma goes into some dark shit. He really gets really dark. But I love it. I loved Corey Michael Smith's, portrayal of Edward Nygma in this season. I loved his portrayal of it back in season 1, but he did it so much better in this season, and he was pretty much full on Nigma. Especially, but anyway, back to the point. So Gordon is looking into the disappearance of Kristen Kringle, and Nigma freaks out because he thinks Gordon's onto him. So he comes up with this over-the-top, diabolical plan to get Gordon framed, to get him sent to Blackgate, which is typically a prison in Gotham. And it works. And like I said, his plan was pretty much like Jigsaw level planning. Like, if you've ever seen any of the Saw movies, particularly the first 2 Saw movies, you'll know what I'm talking about. I haven't seen all the Saw movies, but I know for a fact the first 2 had really big twists. Anyway, and that's another thing. Gordon ends up in prison, and yeah, you see, there's even an episode dedicated to being in prison and stuff. Or dedicated to him being in prison and getting out. And then so forth and so forth. Anyway, I think I'm gonna cut it short there. I think I've been talking non-stop for like ever. So I'm gonna cut it short there, and I'm gonna cut it there, and I'll finish my review in the next video. I have so much to catch up on. I apologize. I'll discuss to you why it's taken me so long to post one in in a different video. There's gonna be another video added to this, and now I'm just mumbling. I'll tell you about it later, but the thing is, like, I apologize, I haven't been uploading recently. Long story short, that's gonna change. I have so many videos and so many reviews to catch up on. Like I said at the beginning of this video, there's work to be done. And the work starts now. So, I'll see all of you, ladies and gentlemen, in the next video. This is J-wil the artist, and like I said, you'll find out my rating and the rest of my review to Season 2 of Gotham in the next video. Until then, though, throw your fists in the air and thrust them like a big bear. Do it like a big bear!